Dr. Miriam Holden felt the wind claw at her jacket as she stepped off the small prop plane in a remote corner of Wyoming. The sun was setting behind the rugged peaks of the Big Horn Mountains, painting the sky in bruised oranges and purples. Her breath caught at the sheer vastness of it all. She had traveled the world studying ancient sites, yet something about this place filled her with an unsettling mixture of anticipation and dread. She was not alone. Waiting by a dusty, off-road vehicle was Lieutenant Sofia Reyes, arms crossed, eyes scanning the horizon. An ex-military operative, Reyes exuded a calm efficiency that belied her guarded nature. She gave a curt nod when Miriam approached. "Dr. Holden?" she asked, voice firm. Miriam nodded. "That's me. I take it you're Lieutenant Reyes?" "Call me Sophia," Reyes replied, extending a gloved hand. "We have a drive ahead of us." They threw their gear in the back, the vehicle's tires crunching gravel as they set out. Along the winding roads, the towering silhouettes of pines and the distant outline of the mountains gave Miriam a sense of insignificance. It was precisely why she had come, to chase the unknown. The tip she'd received, anonymous, urgent, had spoken of a hidden temple buried deep within a cave system. It promised evidence of a lost civilization, possibly older than any known in North America. At the outskirts of a tiny town named Crow's Fork, they found Dr. Alan Voss and Sam Kapoor waiting at a makeshift camp. Voss, a seasoned geologist, was busy poring over topographic maps spread on a collapsible table. Tall and lean, he wore a perpetual frown of concentration, as though the weight of the rocks he studied pressed on him day and night. Samir, on the other hand, radiated restless energy. A tech specialist with an insatiable curiosity, he paced around the camp, fiddling with a compact drone. "Dr. Holden," Voss greeted, glancing up from the maps. "I've read your papers on pre-Columbian artifacts. Your expertise might come in handy." He gestured at the chart under his palm. "I'm seeing unusual seismic readings near these cave systems. Could be a geological anomaly or something else." Sam tapped the drone's control pad, sending it buzzing into the sky. "If there's something man-made in those caves, my baby here will spot it. Thermal imaging, electromagnetic scanning, the works." He paused, catching Miriam's eye. "Or, if it's not man-made." A faint smile tugged at Miriam's lips. "Let's not jump to extraterrestrials just yet." Reyes cleared her throat. "We set out at first light. Weather can turn on us in these mountains, and the terrain's no joke. Let's keep it professional and cautious." They spent the remainder of the evening reviewing the cryptic symbols Miriam had received in her anonymous tip. Though not a perfect match to any known script, they hinted at influences from multiple ancient cultures, Paleo-Indian pictographs, possibly Mesoamerican elements. The shapes evoked serpents, stars, and geometric designs that sent a chill up Miriam's spine. If genuine, they could rewrite parts of early North American history. Night fell swiftly, and the group turned in, each lost in private thoughts. Miriam lay awake in her tent, the wind whistling like distant voices. She wondered who had sent that message and why it specifically named her. The note had been too precise to be a hoax. It mentioned coordinates, referencing an obscure 18th century explorer's journal that hinted at a site of impossible antiquity hidden beneath Wyoming's rugged stone. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than a simple archaeological find. By dawn, they packed their gear, loaded supplies into a pair of rugged ATVs, and headed into the mountains. The rising sun illuminated the craggy slopes, revealing scars where water had carved channels over millennia. As they ascended, the air grew thin and crisp. Sam used his drone to scout ahead, sending back grainy live footage of the terrain. He spotted a yawning cave mouth high above the tree line, exactly where the tip's coordinates pointed. They parked on a ledge of jagged rock. Voss studied the cliff face, noting veins of unusual minerals glinting in the sunlight. "Magnetite, I think," he muttered. "That could explain the electromagnetic interference Sam's picking up. Could also mean the cave network is deeper than we thought." Reyes led the way, carrying a tactical flashlight in one hand, a sidearm holstered at her hip. She wasn't expecting trouble from wildlife, Wolves or bears typically kept to lower elevations, but the tension in her posture suggested she was prepared for anything. The path to the cave was perilous, forcing them to cling to narrow ledges, occasionally crossing over loose scree. Sam's drone hovered overhead, mapping the route, but the swirling mountain winds threatened to knock it from the sky. When they finally reached the entrance, it was larger than they'd anticipated, wide enough for several people to walk abreast, tall enough to swallow them in shadow. "This must be it," Miriam breathed, stepping forward. The cave's mouth exhaled a draft of cold, stale air. She caught the faint scent of damp earth mixed with something metallic. She clicked on her flashlight, its beam piercing the darkness to reveal glistening stalactites and slick walls. No immediate signs of ancient craftsmanship, but something about the place felt alive. Voss crouched near the entrance, running his fingers over an odd formation of rock that resembled layered steps. Could be natural sediment. But look here. He traced a faint line that looked almost chiseled. It's too straight to be natural. Reyes scanned the darkness. "We'll do a quick recon inside. Then we regroup." She turned to Miriam. "I know you want to see what's in there, but we stick together. No wandering off." Miriam nodded, her pulse hammering. This was the moment she'd waited for. The threshold of a discovery that could validate her life's work, or prove fatal curiosity. Sam directed the drone inside, the small device's lights flickering as it vanished around a bend. A few seconds later, his tablet showed a murky feed of jagged passages. Static crackled. The drone sensors indicated unusual humidity, spikes in the electromagnetic field. Sam frowned. The signal's already degrading. Something's messing with the feed. They advanced carefully, flashlights probing the cavern's recesses. Drops of water plunked rhythmically into unseen pools. Their footsteps echoed, and the drone's faint hum preceded them like a mechanical scout. The deeper they went, the more claustrophobic it felt, the stones seeming to press inward. Suddenly, the drone's light flared, illuminating a chamber ahead. Sam's screen flickered. What looked like intricate carvings on the walls, spirals and glyphs half buried in mineral deposits. Miriam's heart leapt. She stepped closer, trying to decipher them. Could these be the same symbols she'd seen in the tip? A low rumble reverberated through the cavern floor, causing pebbles to rattle. Everyone froze. For an instant, Miriam thought it might be an earthquake. Then a deeper sound followed, a humming drone, eerily similar to the one she'd heard in her tent the night before. She felt it in her bones, as if the mountain itself was awakening. Reyes motioned for silence. The group listened, hearts pounding. The hum swelled, then faded, leaving an oppressive stillness in its wake. Sam's drone feed cut out completely, replaced by static. He cursed under his breath, frantically adjusting controls. A moment later, the darkness seemed to grow deeper, almost tangible. Miriam's flashlight sputtered, casting dancing shadows across the carved walls. Her eyes locked onto a particular symbol that glowed faintly, as though it held an inner light. She reached out a trembling hand to touch it, feeling a strange warmth radiating from the stone. Without warning, a cold gust swept through the chamber, extinguishing their flashlights in one collective gasp of darkness. The team was plunged into a blackness, so complete it felt suffocating. In that breathless moment, Miriam heard it again, the hum, now louder, almost like a heartbeat pulsing from somewhere deeper in the cave. She heard Reyes fumble with a spare flashlight. Then the beam clicked on, slicing through the gloom. Dr. Voss and Sam hovered close by, their expressions mirroring her own mix of fear and wonder. None of them spoke, but each understood. They had found something that defied simple explanation, something more profound than mere ancient carvings. And in that electrified hush, the hum returned, rhythmic and insistent. Whatever lay deeper in the darkness had awakened to their presence, and there would be no turning back without confronting it. The narrow entrance of the cave sallowed the light as the team stepped into its cavernous interior. The initial brightness of the outside world quickly faded into a dusky gloom punctuated only by the beams of their flashlights. Each footstep echoed against stone walls slick with ancient moisture, and the air grew cooler and heavier with every passing moment. Dr. Miriam Holden led the group, her eyes wide with a mixture of trepidation and wonder. In the darkness, every drip of water and rustle of loose stone seemed loaded with meaning. As they advanced deeper, the natural contours of the cave gave way to formations that defied explanation. Where rough-hewn rock should have been, there appeared a series of meticulously carved panels, their surfaces adorned with intricate glyphs and geometric patterns. The carvings glowed faintly with an eerie luminescence, a shifting interplay of red and blue that pulsed rhythmically, as if the stone itself had a heartbeat. Dr. Alan Voss knelt before one such panel, his gloved fingers tracing the crisp edges. "This isn't natural sediment," he murmured, voice low and measured. "It's deliberate, engineered." Lieutenant Sophia Reyes kept a vigilant watch over the group. Her hand rested lightly on her holstered sidearm, her eyes scanning every shadow for signs of movement. "We need to stay together," she reminded them, her tone as firm as it was cautious. "There's something off about these corridors." Her warning was not unfounded. The silence that pervaded the passageway felt oppressive, as if the cave itself harbored secrets too ancient to be disturbed. Sam Kapoor, ever the tech specialist, had set up his portable scanner on a narrow ledge. The device emitted a soft hum as it registered bizarre electromagnetic surges. "These readings are off the charts," he reported, eyes darting between his tablet and the dark passage ahead. "I'm picking up fluctuations, like the cave is resonating with some kind of energy. It could be a natural phenomenon, but given these carvings, I'd say it's something else." The team pressed on until they reached a vast, domed chamber whose ceiling arched high into the darkness. Here, the carved panels were replaced by enormous pillars that radiated a faint, otherworldly glow. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like frozen sentinels, and the chamber floor was a mosaic of uneven stone that seemed to vibrate underfoot. Miriam's heart pounded as she surveyed the scene, a blend of nature and artifice that defied categorization. Every inch of the space whispered of a civilization lost to time, yet its presence was palpable, as though the very stones remembered. They gathered in a loose circle at the center of the chamber. Dr. Voss, ever the scientist, began taking detailed measurements and samples from the carvings and stone surfaces. "There's a precision here that suggests advanced knowledge," he observed, his voice tinged with both skepticism and awe. "We're not just dealing with primitive markings. These are deliberate, calculated expressions." Miriam stepped forward, her gaze fixed on a particularly striking carving, a spiral entwined with angular, star-like shapes that seemed to dance under the wavering light. "These symbols," she said slowly, "resemble nothing I've ever seen. They're reminiscent of the ancient petroglyphs we've studied, yet they're far more complex, almost as if they're a language, one that speaks of visitors from beyond our world." Her voice trembled with excitement and an undercurrent of dread. As the group debated the origins of the mysterious art, the atmosphere in the chamber began to change. A subtle vibration resonated through the floor, growing steadily in intensity. Sam's scanner emitted erratic beeps, and even Voss paused mid-measurement, his eyes narrowing as he listened. It was as if the very stones were alive, reacting to their intrusion. Shadows lengthened and twisted along the walls, and the previously steady glow of the carvings flickered, intensifying momentarily before settling into an ominous, pulsating rhythm. A low, almost imperceptible hum filled the air, a sound that seemed to emanate from the depths of the stone itself. Lieutenant Reyes's hand tightened on her weapon as she scanned the darkened recesses. "Did you hear that?" she asked in a hushed tone, her voice betraying a hint of alarm. Before anyone could answer, a sudden chill swept through the chamber. The temperature dropped abruptly, and their breaths became visible in the dim light. A gust of wind, or what seemed like it, rushed past them, carrying with it a whisper of voices too faint to understand. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause, every heart pounding in unison with an almost predestined rhythm. Then, from behind one of the colossal pillars, a section of the wall slowly shifted. The stone moved with a deliberateness that belied its ancient mass, revealing a narrow, hidden passageway carved into the bedrock. The doorway was framed by more of those enigmatic symbols, now glowing with an intense red and blue luminescence. The air that emanated from the opening was cool and charged with a mysterious energy, a silent invitation and a warning all at once. Miriam's pulse quickened as she stepped closer, compelled by an irresistible force of curiosity. "This is it," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The hidden temple's entrance. Her eyes shone with a mix of scientific wonder and a dread she could scarcely admit even to herself. Lieutenant Reyes moved to stand beside her, scanning the threshold. "We need to be cautious," she said. "Whatever lies beyond could be dangerous. We stick together, no one goes off on their own." Dr. Voss nodded, adjusting his instruments as he examined the doorway. "There's something here that defies natural explanation. These carvings, they're not just decorative. They're functional. They might be part of a locking mechanism, or even an ancient control system." Sam's fingers danced over his tablet as he monitored the scanner's data. "I'm getting a consistent electromagnetic pulse coming from deeper in the passage. It's rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. That could be the temple's power source, or perhaps some kind of signal." His tone was both excited and unnerved, reflecting the dual nature of discovery and the potential for disaster. The team huddled near the threshold, weighing their options. The hidden passage was narrow and dark, its walls etched with symbols that seemed to shimmer in the interplay of red and blue light. There was no turning back now. The anomaly of the temple had called to them with a voice that resonated in their bones. As they debated whether to proceed immediately or to conduct further scans from a safer distance, the ground beneath them trembled once more. The vibration grew stronger, causing dust to cascade from the ceiling and small pebbles to skitter across the floor. The red and blue lights of the carvings flickered wildly, casting dancing shadows that twisted into grotesque shapes. It was as if the temple itself was awakening from a long slumber. Miriam took a steadying breath and met Reyes's gaze. "We can't ignore this any longer. This is the moment we've been waiting for, whether we're ready or not." Her voice was resolute, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. Lieutenant Reyes sighed, her expression softening for just a moment before hardening once more. "All right, but we move as one. We don't let anyone wander off." Her military training was evident in every word, a necessary counterbalance to Miriam's relentless drive for discovery. Dr. Voss adjusted his pack and gripped his tools, the analytical part of his mind already cataloging the implications of their findings. "Let's document everything as we go. The data we collect here could rewrite our understanding of ancient cultures, and possibly extraterrestrial influence." Sam gave a small, nervous laugh. "I just hope the tech holds up. I've never seen anything like these readings before." His eyes flickered between his tablet and the dark passage ahead, a silent testament to the extraordinary nature of what they were about to encounter. With a final exchange of determined glances, the team stepped forward into the narrow passage. The air grew denser, charged with the electric tang of anticipation. Each step took them deeper into an environment that seemed to exist in a space between myth and reality. The walls of the passageway were smoother here, the chiseled symbols more deliberate, as if carved by hands that possessed knowledge beyond human experience. The corridor twisted and turned, leading them through a labyrinth of stone that seemed to stretch on interminably. Every so often, the hum would rise in volume, echoing off the walls in a way that made it impossible to tell where it originated. Occasionally, Sam would stop to recalibrate his scanner, his brow furrowing in concentration as he tried to decode the fluctuating signals. Time lost its meaning in the oppressive darkness of the temple's lower recesses. The team moved with a collective sense of urgency, each step forward accompanied by the weight of 1,000 unanswered questions. What ancient force had been sealed within these caverns? What secrets did these alien-like carvings hold? And most importantly, what consequences would their intrusion have on a power that had lain dormant for eons? Then, as the passage opened into a vast, circular chamber, the source of the humming became unmistakably clear. The chamber was dominated by a towering stone door, intricately carved with spirals, celestial motifs, and the same cryptic symbols that had haunted their every step. The door's surface shimmered with the interplay of red and blue hues, its design both mesmerizing and menacing. Dr. Voss stepped forward to inspect the door, running his hand along its cool, smooth surface. "This door isn't just a barrier," he said softly. "It's a threshold. I believe it was designed to seal in whatever lies beyond, perhaps even to control it." Miriam's eyes shone with fervor. "Then it's our key to uncovering the truth behind this hidden temple." Her voice was a mixture of scientific passion and an almost primal need to know. Lieutenant Reyes, ever the pragmatist, shot a wary glance at the door. "Or it's our final barrier. We have no idea what might happen if we open it." Her words carried the weight of countless warnings and unspoken fears. Sam's scanner beeped urgently, drawing their attention to a small alcove in the wall near the door. "There," he pointed, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm picking up a consistent signal, like a pulse, that's emanating from behind that section of stone." He swiped across his tablet, bringing up a waveform that pulsed in sync with the hum. The team huddled around the alcove, their collective breath held in suspended anticipation. The signal was steady and rhythmic, a silent metronome marking the passage of time in a place where time itself seemed to have lost meaning. It was a call, a beacon from the heart of the temple. After a long, charged silence, Miriam stepped back and faced her team. "We've come this far," she said, her voice resolute despite the uncertainty that loomed in every shadow. "We have to know what's behind that door, even if it means facing something we can't understand." Lieutenant Reyes exhaled slowly, her gaze fixed on the stone barrier. "Then let's proceed together. But we keep our eyes open, and if anything seems off, we retreat immediately." Dr. Voss nodded in agreement, while Sam adjusted his equipment one last time, his fingers trembling with both excitement and fear. Together, they positioned themselves before the towering door, each one acutely aware that this moment might redefine everything they believed about the past, about history, and about the very nature of reality. In a gesture that was as much symbolic as it was practical, Dr. Voss carefully retrieved a set of archaic tools from his pack, a combination of modern instruments and replicas of ancient keys designed to interact with the temple's carvings. The team formed a circle, each member placing a tentative hand on the door's surface, feeling for the right spot where the carvings might yield to their touch. A sudden vibration rippled through the chamber, and the door responded with a slow, deliberate creak. The red and blue light intensified, casting eerie reflections across the faces of the team, revealing expressions of awe, fear, and determination. For a long, breathless moment, nothing happened except the sound of their pounding hearts and the distant, relentless hum of the temple's core. Then, as if driven by an unseen force, the door began to slide open, its movement smooth yet imbued with an ancient, inexorable power. The narrow gap widened to reveal a dark passage beyond, a threshold into a realm that promised revelations and dangers in equal measure. Miriam exchanged glances with Reyes, Voss, and Sam, each of them silently acknowledging the gravity of the moment. There was no turning back now. With the door parting before them, they stood on the cusp of a discovery that could shatter centuries of assumptions, or unleash a force that might never be contained. As they stepped forward into the darkness beyond the threshold, the hum of the temple swelled into a deep, resonant pulse, echoing off the ancient stone. The hidden temple beckoned with secrets untold, and the team, united by purpose yet divided by instinct, moved together into the unknown. The passage behind the door swallowed their lights and voices, leaving behind only the echo of their footsteps and the promise of mysteries yet to be unraveled. Stepping beyond the slowly parting stone door, the team entered a vast, cavernous hall that defied every expectation of what a hidden temple might be. The chamber, illuminated by the residual glow of red and blue light dancing along its walls, stretched out before them in an almost surreal expanse. Here, nature and artifice coexisted in a delicate balance. Towering stone pillars carved with intricate, otherworldly glyphs, and sweeping murals depicting celestial bodies and figures that seemed both human and alien. Dr. Miriam Holden's heart pounded in her ears as she surveyed the scene, every detail etched into her memory. This was no natural formation. The precision of the carvings, the deliberate symmetry of the murals. They spoke of a civilization with knowledge far beyond what had been recorded in human history. Miriam's curiosity burned brighter with every step, even as a whisper of foreboding threaded through her thoughts. Lieutenant Sofia Reyes, ever the sentinel, moved with measured caution. Her gaze darted around the expansive hall, hand never straying far from her holstered sidearm. "Stay close," she commanded in a hushed tone, her voice resolute but laced with tension. "I don't like the silence here. It's too expectant." Dr. Alan Voss, whose analytical mind had been a steady counterpoint to Miriam's fervor, knelt beside one of the lower relief panels. His fingers traced the smooth, deliberate lines of a carved emblem, a spiral entwined with star-like patterns, and he murmured, "This is not just art. It's a language, a record. It suggests contact, perhaps even a covenant." His words, spoken in a low voice, sent a ripple of unease through the group. Sam Kapoor, still clutching his tablet, monitored the fluctuating readings from his portable scanner. "I'm getting constant electromagnetic pulses from deep within the hall," he reported, his tone a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "They're rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. It's as if the temple is alive, pulsing with some ancient power." His eyes shifted from the screen to the intricate patterns that adorned the walls, as if seeking an explanation in the very symbols themselves. The chamber's atmosphere grew denser with each step, as though the very air was charged with memories of ages past. Shadows clung to the edges, moving imperceptibly as if they were sentient observers. Miriam's flashlight caught glimpses of figures etched in the stone, tall, robed silhouettes with elongated features that seemed to watch silently from the walls. She couldn't help but feel that these figures were not merely decorative, but were guardians of the temple's secrets. As the group advanced further into the hall, the hum that had haunted their journey intensified. It vibrated through the floor and echoed off the vaulted ceiling, a deep resonance that felt both ancient and foreboding. Reyes halted abruptly, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the darkness beyond. "Did you all feel that?" she asked, voice low. "Like the ground itself is breathing?" No one replied immediately, each lost in their own mounting apprehension. Then, from the far end of the chamber, a subtle glow began to coalesce, a soft, pulsating light that emanated from a raised dais. On it rested a massive altar, its surface carved with a spiraling mosaic of symbols that mirrored those on the walls. The light, alternating between red and blue, bathed the altar in an eerie radiance that made it seem almost alive. Miriam stepped forward, transfixed by the sight. "This must be the heart of the temple," she whispered. "The source of those electromagnetic pulses." Her voice trembled with a mixture of awe and dread. She moved closer, each footstep echoing like a drumbeat in the cavernous space, until she stood before the altar. Her gloved hand reached out, hesitating just a moment before making contact with the cool, smooth surface. At that instant, the humming surged into a cacophonous roar, and the carvings on the walls flickered as if ignited by some inner fire. The images shifted, and for a fleeting moment, the murals seemed to animate, a cascade of symbols dancing in a silent, cryptic choreography. Sam's tablet flashed wildly with data that defied explanation, registering peaks of energy that resonated with every pulse of the mysterious hum. Then, as abruptly as it had started, the sound subsided, replaced by an oppressive silence. The altar's glow softened, leaving a lingering impression of something powerful and uncontrolled lurking just beneath the surface. Reyes's hand instinctively went to her weapon, and Voss exchanged a grave look with Miriam. In that charged moment, it became clear the temple was not a dormant relic of the past. It was an active nexus of energy, a gateway to forces beyond their comprehension. Are we really prepared for what this means? Voss asked, his voice echoing in the stillness. This isn't just about uncovering ancient secrets. Whatever this power is, it might be waiting to be unleashed. His eyes flickered from the altar to the carved figures on the wall, as if searching for reassurance in the stone. Miriam's gaze hardened with determination. We came here to uncover the truth, she said firmly, though her hands trembled slightly. We need to document everything. This temple may hold the key to understanding not just our past, but the origins of human civilization itself. Sam, still reeling from the surges on his scanner, interjected, "The data I'm seeing, it's as if the temple is resonating with a specific frequency, a code, almost. I can't tell what it means yet, but it's unlike anything in our records." His words, laden with both wonder and trepidation, underscored the magnitude of the discovery. Before anyone could respond, a sudden, resonant boom shattered the fragile calm. The ground trembled, and the pillars around the altar vibrated in unison. Dust fell from the ceiling as a deep, guttural sound reverberated through the chamber. Reyes snapped to attention, scanning the room with heightened alertness. "What now?" she demanded, her voice a blend of authority and urgency. From the far end of the hall, where the shadows converged into darkness, a figure emerged. It was difficult to discern details in the low light, but as it drew nearer, the group could make out the unmistakable outline of a being that moved with deliberate, otherworldly grace. The figure was tall and thin, draped in a robe that shimmered with a strange iridescence. Its face was obscured by a hood, and an aura of ancient wisdom and menace surrounded it. The being stopped a few paces from the altar, and in a voice that seemed to emanate from everywhere at once, it intoned, "You have awakened the threshold." Its words were not spoken, so much as they were imprinted into the minds of everyone present. A chill ran down Miriam's spine as she realized that this entity was not bound by the physical laws that governed them. It was something older, something beyond the confines of time. Lieutenant Reyes tightened her grip on her weapon, her eyes never leaving the figure. "Who are you?" she demanded, her tone edged with both defiance and fear. The entities had shifted slightly, and for a brief moment, a pair of eyes, deep, luminous, and filled with an unfathomable sorrow, peeked out. "I am the Keeper," it replied, each syllable resonating with the weight of centuries. "I have guarded this sanctuary since before your kind walked the earth." The words sent shockwaves through the group. The Keeper's presence affirmed what each of them had feared. The temple was not merely a relic but a living, breathing repository of an ancient power, and now that power had been disturbed. Dr. Voss stepped forward slowly, his scientific mind racing to reconcile the Keeper's claims with the data he had gathered. "What do you mean by guarded this sanctuary?" he asked, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "What is this place, truly?" The Keeper's gaze, shifting slowly to encompass all four of them, seemed to weigh their souls. "This temple is a bridge, a portal to a realm of knowledge and power that predates human memory. It is a relic of a civilization that once traversed the stars, and it holds within it the echoes of what was, what is, and what may yet be." Its tone was neither malevolent nor benevolent. It was a solemn declaration, laden with inevitability. Miriam's heart pounded with a mixture of exhilaration and dread. The temple's purpose, as the Keeper explained, was not merely to store ancient wisdom, but to serve as a beacon, a call to those who would seek to harness or disrupt the balance between worlds. "And you?" she asked softly. "Why have you remained here?" The Keeper's response was measured, almost sorrowful. "I am bound to this place, tasked with ensuring that the threshold remains sealed. Yet when the time is right, the bridge may open, and the legacy of my people will be revealed once more. But heed this warning. The power within these walls is not meant for mortal hands. To disturb it is to invite chaos, a force that can unmake worlds." A heavy silence settled over the group as the Keeper's words sank in. Each of them felt the enormity of the choice before them: to continue in their quest for knowledge, risking unleashing an ancient, potentially cataclysmic power, or to retreat and let the temple remain undisturbed. Their personal ambitions, fears, and convictions collided in that charged moment. Lieutenant Reyes was the first to break the silence. "We came here to understand," she said, her voice firm but conflicted. "But if what you say is true, then our presence here could have consequences we're not ready to face." Her eyes darted between Miriam, whose determination shone despite the looming threat, and Sam, whose hands still trembled over his scanner. Dr. Voss adjusted his glasses, his analytical mind working overtime. "Every discovery carries risk," he remarked. "But if we do not seek understanding, we remain forever ignorant. The choice is not simple, but knowledge must come at some cost." Sam interjected. "The data from my equipment shows an escalating energy pulse. Whatever is here is already reacting to us. We need to decide now. If we push further, we might trigger something irreversible." Miriam took a deep breath, her gaze fixed on the keeper. "We must document this, understand its nature, and then decide whether to seal it once we have all the answers or let it remain undisturbed. It may be the key to so much lost history, but it could also be a harbinger of destruction." The keeper's eyes glowed with an almost imperceptible sadness as it regarded them. "The path you choose is your own, but know this: every step you take will echo through the ages. The threshold you have awakened is not merely a doorway. It is a convergence point of destiny." At that moment, the chamber trembled, and the rhythmic hum of the temple surged into a deafening crescendo. The carved pillars flickered as if struck by an unseen force, and the murals along the walls seemed to come alive in a cascade of shifting symbols. The energy in the room reached a fever pitch, and the keeper raised a hand in a gesture that both commanded silence and beckoned them forward. "The threshold is open," the keeper intoned. "Beyond lies the repository of forbidden knowledge and the seed of transformation. But be warned, what you do next will alter the course of your lives, and perhaps the fate of your world." The air crackled with the promise of imminent change. The team stood at a precipice, caught between the allure of the unknown and the terror of what lay hidden in the depths. In that charged moment, with the echoes of ancient power surrounding them, they knew there was no turning back. As the keeper's words faded into a heavy silence, Miriam exchanged a resolute look with Reyes, while Voss and Sam readied their equipment. Their hearts pounded in unison as they prepared to step toward the unknown, driven by a shared determination to uncover the truth behind the hidden temple. Every question that had haunted them, the origins of the cryptic carvings, the source of the pulsating energy, and the mysterious legacy of a civilization beyond the stars, now beckoned them deeper into the darkness. With one final collective breath, they advanced. The light from the altar dimmed, swallowed by the gathering shadows, and the ancient doorway beyond the central chamber loomed before them, a silent promise of revelations yet to be discovered. They stepped forward into the threshold, leaving behind the relative safety of the known world. The hum of the temple escalated into a resonant pulse that seemed to sync with their very heartbeat, and as they crossed into the next realm of mystery, the keeper's solemn warning echoed in their minds. Every step would echo through the ages. The temple's pulse had grown louder, a deafening cadence that resonated through the cavernous hallways. With the keeper's solemn warning echoing in their minds, the team found themselves at a crossroads. Continue into the unknown depths or retreat with the knowledge they'd unearthed at a potentially catastrophic cost. Dr. Miriam Holden's heart pounded as she exchanged a determined look with Lieutenant Sophia Reyes. Around them, Dr. Alan Voss and Sam Kapoor hurriedly gathered their equipment, their faces etched with equal parts exhilaration and terror. The ancient altar, the very heart of the temple, had begun to shudder, sending tremors through the stone floor. The once steady red and blue glow now flickered erratically, as if the temple were struggling against an unseen force. "Hold on," Reyes commanded, her voice both firm and urgent. "We need to get out before the temple collapses on itself." Her eyes scanned the dark recesses of the hall, alert to every echoing footstep and shifting shadow. Miriam hesitated for a split second, her scientific curiosity warring with survival instinct. The revelations of the past hours, cryptic glyphs, the rhythmic hum, the living presence of the Keeper, had rewritten everything she'd known about ancient civilizations. Yet, as the temple's energy surged uncontrollably, she realized that some mysteries might be better left undisturbed. Dr. Voss, kneeling by the altar, murmured, "The energy is destabilizing. Whatever force has been contained here is breaking free." His voice quivered as he noted erratic readings on his handheld device, confirming that the temple's inner mechanism was collapsing. Sam's scanner, once a steady beacon of cryptic data, now emitted erratic bursts that painted the walls in disjointed patterns of light and shadow. The Keeper, standing motionless at the edge of the chamber, regarded them with a sorrowful, almost resigned calm. Its deep, ancient eyes, briefly visible beneath the hood, seemed to plead for restraint. "The threshold has been disturbed," the Keeper intoned softly, its voice resonating in the minds of all present. "Your presence has unbound that which should have remained sealed." A low rumble began to reverberate through the chamber, intensifying into a seismic roar that made the very stone tremble. Cracks splintered along the floor and ceiling, and a cascade of dust and debris rained down as the temple shuddered under the strain of forces beyond mortal comprehension. Lieutenant Reyes gripped her sidearm tighter and motioned for the group to move. "We need to retreat. Now," she shouted, her tone leaving no room for debate. The team surged toward the narrow passageway that had led them into the hidden sanctuary, the unsteady glow of the altar diminishing behind them as the vibrations grew louder and more chaotic. Miriam clutched a small recorder in her hand, capturing every moment as if the evidence of their discovery might be the only testament to what they had encountered. She glanced back at the Keeper one last time. Its expression was unreadable, a mix of warning and sorrow, before it receded into the gathering gloom. "Do not let the bridge open further," it whispered, a final admonition that would haunt her dreams. In the tight corridors of the temple, the team's progress was hampered by falling rocks and the disintegration of the carved walls. Sam led the way with his handheld scanner, its red and blue indicators erratically pulsing as he charted the safest route out. Dr. Voss helped clear debris as they advanced, his analytical mind focused solely on the measurements that might offer a clue to the temple's inner workings, even as time worked against them. The passageway narrowed, the air growing stale and heavy with the scent of ancient decay. Every step was fraught with uncertainty, every shadow a potential threat. Reyes's constant vigilance and authoritative commands kept the group moving, even as the structure around them groaned and shifted as if alive. As they neared the entrance, a jagged opening in the mountain's face through which faint daylight filtered, the ground beneath them began to quake more violently. A sudden, violent tremor sent them sprawling, and a chorus of alarmed shouts filled the air. Sam scrambled to re-establish his grip on the scanner, while Voss helped a dazed Reyes to her feet. Miriam's recorder continued its steady documentation, capturing not only their frantic escape, but also the ominous hum that still pulsed from deep within the temple. A monumental crash echoed behind them as a massive section of the temple's ceiling gave way, sealing the passage behind and trapping any thoughts of retreating back the way they came. The only route forward was to the surface, a journey now fraught with both physical peril and the burden of an ancient secret newly unleashed. Emerging into the frigid mountain air, the team collapsed on the rocky ground, their breaths ragged in the cold dawn. The sky above was a wash of pale light, and for a few excruciating moments, they simply lay there, processing the magnitude of what had transpired below the earth. The hidden temple, once a silent guardian of forgotten knowledge, was now a shattered ruin, its secrets spilled like fragments of a dark dream. Lieutenant Reyes was the first to break the silence. "We need to report this," she said, her tone carrying the weight of command as she scanned the horizon. "But also, we need to ensure nothing follows us." Her eyes met Miriam's, and in that look, the duality of their quest became painfully clear. The pursuit of truth came with a cost, one that could unravel not just history, but the fabric of their reality. Dr. Voss, his hands still trembling from the shock of the escape, nodded solemnly. "The data we've collected will change everything," he remarked, his voice a mix of wonder and apprehension. "But we have to be careful. The temple wasn't just a relic, it was a prison, and now that it's broken, whatever was locked inside might still be out there." Sam's scanner, now silent and dark, lay forgotten as he stared off into the distance. "I'm not sure if our equipment is even capable of capturing the full scope of what we experienced," he admitted softly. "There are frequencies and energies here that defy our understanding." Miriam, still clutching her recorder, felt a profound mix of triumph and terror. "We set out to uncover a hidden temple, and in doing so, awaken something ancient and powerful," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We now carry the burden of that knowledge. What we choose to do next, that decision might determine not just our fate, but the fate of everyone." As they gathered their scattered gear and began the arduous trek back to their base camp, the morning light cast long, somber shadows over the rugged terrain. The mountains seemed to watch them, silent and inscrutable, as if guarding its secrets with an eternal vigilance. The echoes of the temple's collapsing structure, its final defiant roar, remained a constant reminder of the power they had disturbed. In the distance, a storm was gathering, dark clouds rolling over the peaks as if summoned by forces beyond nature. The team's weary footsteps merged with the whispers of the wind, carrying with them the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Their journey back was not just a physical retreat from the depths of the temple, but also a mental reckoning with the knowledge that some mysteries might be too vast, too dangerous to ever be fully understood. As they neared the base camp, a mixture of relief and lingering dread settled over them. Lieutenant Reyes checked the perimeter, ensuring that no unwelcome presence followed their escape. Dr. Voss meticulously secured the data they had collected, knowing that every byte of information might be crucial to understanding the temple's true nature. Sam's mind was already racing through potential explanations, theories, and the implications of electromagnetic anomalies that defied every known law of physics. And Miriam, she simply stared at the horizon, where the first rays of the sun battled the retreating night, pondering the true cost of their discovery. Before they parted ways for debriefing and documentation, Miriam gathered the team for a final, quiet moment. "What we experienced down there," she said, her voice resolute yet laced with sorrow, "was not merely an archaeological find. It was a window into a past that should have remained hidden, a warning, perhaps, of powers that we are not meant to comprehend." Reyes's eyes, hardened by years of combat and survival, softened for a brief moment as she replied, "We did what we had to do. But now, we must decide how to handle this knowledge. It's not just about history, it's about our future." In that moment, as the wind whispered through the pines and the storm loomed ominously on the distant horizon, they understood that their discovery was only the beginning. The hidden temple's secrets would ripple outward, challenging the very foundations of what they knew about human civilization and the forces that had shaped it. The final image of that day was one of bittersweet triumph. A team united by a shared, terrible knowledge, standing against the backdrop of an unforgiving wilderness. A wilderness that had given up its most dangerous secret. And as they walked toward the uncertain light of day, each step resonated with the promise of further revelations, of mysteries yet to be unraveled. For beneath the mountains of Wyoming, in the silent, dark recesses of the earth, something ancient had been stirred. And though the temple now lay in ruins, its echoes would continue to haunt the minds of those who dared to seek the truth.